Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm your host, Veteran Mountain Man, and it is a beautiful, beautiful Sunday here in Tennessee. I figured that today, because the topic in a lot of news media has been Venezuela, that we should just go ahead and get this out of the way. Currently, the Venezuelan people are in open rebellion against their President Maduro. Now, Maduro is realistically a communist dictator. He has done away with the state assembly. He has seized control of the military directly. He has been arming communist militias with federal weapons in their nation and has basically run the economy into the ground, which is what socialism or communism does. It just does. If you don't believe me, look at the myriad of examples. Pol Pot killed tens of thousands of people through starvation, privation, and government overreach. Cuba executed thousands of people. The war in Bolivia killed thousands of innocent people. Russia murdered millions of people during their revolution and continued government largesse and regime. China has been executing businessmen in the past 10 years because they have too much frickin' money and has killed millions of people. The DPRK has killed thousands of people. It just goes on and on and on and on. And yet you continue to hear people talk about, well, that wasn't real communism and wasn't real socialism. At this point, their argument is completely and utterly fallacious. Now, that being said, the interim president, as he has self-declared himself in front of the former National Assembly, which was disbarred, he has every right to lead a coup against Maduro. And I think that the Venezuelan people have every right to support him. I also think that we should not take certain active roles in their basically civil war. What we can do is support the interim government through the supplying of weapons and munitions to give them the capability to fight Maduro and allow them to set up an actual functioning real government. Because obviously their current government is nothing more than a tyrannical dictatorship. Now, that being said, I am not going to advocate for any kind of releasings of sanctions against Maduro and his communist regime. I would advocate for the releasing of sanctions against the opposition in order to do beneficent trade, and I would also advocate, once they completely take Maduro out, as long as they don't renationalize all the businesses, business investment in the country. I'm not going to advocate them replacing one communist regime with a new communist regime under a different name, but I would advocate doing business with them if they go from a communist regime back to some semblance of democratic governance or Republican governance. That's little r Republican for those of you who can't get your heads out of your fourth point of contact, which means that a constitution with a representative republic-style government. So, either way, I would advocate for either of those kind of changes. And I also think that we should not put boots in ground. Now, hear me out on this, because I know a lot of people are going to either get really mad at me on this or they're going to try to misquote me. So I want people to hear this clearly. In the midst of a civil war where the people are overthrowing a tyrannical government, trying to interfere will not cause goodwill. Supplying arms to the people who are trying to overthrow their government legally and legitimately is one thing. Putting soldiers in the field to assist them is quite different. Okay? And that is something we need to avoid. We also need to avoid actually assisting them in any way of drafting a constitution or some other guiding principle document. They need to develop that on their own. You cannot instill your morals through dictate in this fashion. It's something that has gotten the United States in trouble over and over again. People will desire to be free. It is one of the reasons that Central and South America have been pushing away from socialism and towards open market capitalistic systems is because they're starting to see the repression that socialism creates. But you have to allow them to come to that determination on their own. Forcing your morals on someone else will not give them those morals. They have to come to those morals from their own logic, their own reason, and their own suffering. That is why suffering is key to the human condition, and why we cannot end world suffering with magic and well wishes and empathy, is because no matter what, there will be some level of suffering. Resources are not infinite, and the idea that you can end all suffering just by printing more money shows a fundamental lack of the understanding of resources and individual exchange in order to better oneself. The idea that you can legislate yourself out of poverty versus working your way out just doesn't work, people. Well, thank you all again for joining me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, or thumbs up and subscribe on BitChute. I also have other social media sites down below, as well as my Redbubble and Teespring. Please come on over and check out some swag. I'm actually hoping to get a brand new AOC shirt on the market here shortly. I was thinking about it. It sounds like it's a great idea, but I've got to do some work first. And as always, have yourself a beautiful day.